Hey everybody, Josh from Rennline, and we're going to install our new 991.1 carbon fiber intake. Let's get started. So the first thing you're going to want to do is pop your trunk and raise your wing to the full height. It's going to give us access to these little panels that we're going to take off. So what we're going to do is remove these two bolts, which are going to release the tail light. And make sure you unplug the back connector. And now we're going to do the same thing on the other taillight. Now that we've removed both taillights, we're going to remove the top fan assembly. We're going to move this shroud. And this piece just snaps right in. Then we're going to remove the connectors from the fans. This piece should lift right away. So we're going to remove this bolt, these caps, and this cover, and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. With this cover off, this exposes this bolt to remove the whole wing assembly. And next, we're going to disconnect this wiring harness. And for our next step, we're going to remove the bumper. There's 4 bolts right here. There's a screw in the side, and then we're going to remove all the screws from the side fender well and underneath the car. Okay, now that we have the bumper removed, we're going to remove the wing assembly. You have to be very careful because there's still a wiring harness in the top right, and you're just going to pull that away. And now that we have the bumper off, we can remove the old OEM intake. We're going to start by taking this top assembly piece off. We're going to undo these clips holding it to the intake. We're going to remove this hose, and with this piece off, we're going to undo this screw that will release it from the throttle body. And then we're going to undo these 2 screws down here in the corner, and that will release the intake. Before removing the OEM intake, make sure to remove this breather hose. From here, you can remove the hose from the throttle body. And you're able to flip the intake over, and you'll find 2 hoses on the bottom that you can disconnect. From these points right here. then you should be able to pull the intake right away. Now that we have the OEM intake out, we're ready to put the new carbon fiber intake in. For our next step, we're going to install the OEM gasket that fits on the old OEM intake and add it to the top of the carbon fiber intake. Now that we installed the OEM gasket onto the new intake, there's a few more things that we have to switch over from the OEM intake. So we'll start with transferring over the vacuum valve onto the new intake. And you're going to want to do that by unscrewing this screw and pulling it from this clip under here. For our next part, we're going to install this vacuum valve into this hose, as shown, and then just tighten the clamp. So this is a prototype, and this will, on the production model, this will include a clip that fastens the vacuum pump down and clips that will hold this hose down. So this is a good opportunity to tighten all your hose clamps. You have two here, and one right here. So now that we have the factory parts installed from the OEM intake, we're ready to install the carbon fiber intake. So what we're going to want to do is try to line this hose onto the throttle body as we're putting this piece on. Like so. Now that we have this hose connected to the throttle body, this is a good opportunity to tighten this clamp so it's snug to the throttle body. After hooking up the clamp on the throttle body, you're going to want to hook this hose up to the previous location. For our next step, we want to put this blue hose into this fitting location. For our next step, we're going to want to hook this hose onto this barb fitting, and we're going to cap the other end of this fitting. As I previously mentioned, this is the prototype, and on the production model, we're going to have two clips to fasten both these connectors. For our next step, we want to install these bolts in these factory locations. And we're going to do the same on the other side. So if you're finding it hard to line up the holes on this intake, it helps to loosen these clamps to line up these holes better. If you do loosen these clamps up, make sure you tighten them after the final installation. So this part is from the OEM installation. You're going to want to remove these clips and reuse them on the new piece. It'll be helpful if you use a screwdriver and push these little tabs down to release them, like so. For the next step, we want to install these factory clips and these mounting holes on both sides to secure the top fan. And that's it. The intake's in and it looks great. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put the car back together in reverse order. What you're going to want to start with is the wing assembly, the bumper, both taillights, and the fan assembly. And that's it. Once you get it all together, you're ready to hit the road. If you like parts like this, check out our website at Rennline.com.